We are live.
Okay. Welcome all to the September 2023 City of Asheville Urban Forestry Commission meeting. Before we get started with the agenda, we'll go through recognitions. So Zoe Hoyle is with us, but she's out talking with some roofers at the moment.
Not here.
Oh, you're here? Okay. Then go ahead, Zoe.
So Zoe Hoyle, Urban Forestry Commission.
Ed?
Ed Macy, Asheville Greenworks Urban Forestry Commission.
Cecil?
Cecil, you're muted.
Cecil Bothwell, 8-year council liaison to the Forestry Commission and now member of the Forestry Commission. Rocket.
Chardin?
Chardon Dietrich, Urban Forestry Commission.
Karen?
Karen McNeil, Urban Forestry Commission.
I think that Sharon Sumrall is away on vacation this month. And I am Patrick Gilbert, Chair of the Urban Forestry Commission. City staff, Keith?
Yeah, Keith Aiken, Urban Forester.
Nancy?
Nancy Watford, Zoning Supervisor.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Blevins, Urban Planner.
Jackson?
Jackson Marks, Planning Technician.
Okay. Stephanie?
Steph Munson-Dahl, Planning and Urban Design Director.
Welcome to our meeting, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Is Chris Collins here? I don't see him. Or Vidila Satvica? I don't see him either. He was going to be here. City Council, Kim Roney.
Good afternoon. Kim Roney. I use she, her pronouns. I'm your council liaison to the Urban Forestry Commission.
Thank you. And Crawford.
Yes, Crawford Murphy. Thank you for letting me tune in. I'm an architect and I am a user of sustainable forest products in my company, a PAD.
Welcome. Anybody else that I may have missed? Yes.
Sarah Millar, Asheville Greenworks.
Oh, hi, Sarah. Thank you. Before we...
And also
Hey,
Mark.
Patrick.
Pardon?
Patrick.
Yep.
Hi.
Oh, Mark.
I'm
Hey,
here.
Mark. Okay.
Feeling really loved too, so I'll be sure to leave as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mark. Before we get into the agenda, just sort of a procedural service announcement. Theoretically, under the guidelines of the boards and commissions, our meetings are supposed to be within reason, held within a 2-hour time frame. I know that there's leeway in that time frame given to boards or commissions that have quite quasi-judicial powers. We're sort of a hybrid because we sort of have quasi-judicial powers in terms of alternative compliance. And so we have so limited ways of sort of keeping that part of the agenda short. But for the rest, I would like to see if we can complete our meetings within 2 hours, which would make it around 3 o'clock. So if we're on a hot topic and I see that we're running a little long, I may have to cut it short and move on to the next agenda item. So I just wanted everybody to understand that up front. So with that in mind, we have the minutes from the August meeting. I hope that everybody's had a chance to review those. If so, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you,
Second,
Cecil.
Ed Macy, second.
Thank you, Ed. Are there any discussion or questions regarding the minutes? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor of approving the August Urban Forestry Commission minutes? Zoe,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Chardon,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the minutes are unanimously approved. So now we'll move into alternative compliance. The first one is 7 Gamby Street.
Hi again, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Blevins, and this project is at 7 Granby Street, and it's a mission hospital project. It was for renovations to an existing building to accommodate a variety of uses within that building, and requires the site to be brought into compliance with all of the applicable standards in Article 11 of the Unified Development Ordinance. So it's a complicated site because of the location of the existing building, the location of existing parking lots and utilities and so forth. And because of the layers of landscaping that are required in several locations. So it's adjacent to RS8 on both sides of the east corner of the lot, and that would require a 30-foot wide type B property line buffer. In addition to that, along that same corner and both for the full length of both of those sides of the property, they would be required street trees and street buffer shrubs, actually for the majority of the length down the one side, but for the full length along the rear. And so because of the limited area, because of the existing parking, and how it is positioned adjacent to the street is well above the parking lot. There wouldn't be room to fit street trees, street buffer shrubs, and a property line, a 30-foot property line buffer. So there are some other conditions also. The project triggers the requirement for sidewalks, and along Granby Street, which is a narrow residential street just because it accesses a residential neighborhood to the rear. It's a narrow street, and there's going to be a sidewalk. And because, again, of the topography, retaining wall is going to be required. There are a number of existing utilities along that street. So there's some relief being sought there as well. So the things that the applicant is proposing are to adjust the property line buffer requirement there on that east corner, to eliminate entirely the requirement for small shrubs, and reduce the number of large maturing deciduous trees from 7 to 3. All of the remainder of the property line buffer requirements would be placed elsewhere on the site, And so along that corner, what you would have is street trees and street buffer shrubs. And then for the rest of the site, they are asking to revise the location of 3 of the street trees that are required along that southern portion of Granby Street, right adjacent to the existing building, due to all of those utility poles, the retaining wall, and the sidewalk that are required, and to revise the location of the street trees along Biltmore Avenue to move them further than 20 feet from the edge of the street. So between 20 and 30 feet from the street edge, due to the location of the utilities. Because of that portion of the building you see that crosses over Biltmore Avenue, there are utility lines that have to go under that. And so even small maturing trees, even if you change the standard to small maturing trees, they would not be able to be placed under those utility lines. So those are the requests the applicant is making. We've evaluated them all, and they appear to meet the alternative compliance standards. And the majority of the plant materials that are required are going to be placed on the site, other than those that I mentioned, and they are preserving all of the existing plant materials possible. And that's all I have. We do have Mary Weber, the landscape architect for the project, who designed this plan and admirably squeezed in lots and lots of landscaping within the bounds of the existing conditions. So if you have any questions for me or for Mary, we're happy to entertain them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions? Yes, Karen.
Keith has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question about the trees along Biltmore Avenue. If that distance gets moved back to 30 feet, would that require that to be large maturing trees rather than small maturing trees? Because that moves them out of the power lines.
I think we might need to move them back further to put in larger trees. And also there's a stormwater detention basin a little bit further up the slope. So I didn't want to get into that either. So that's why I kept with the small maturing trees.
Jennifer, is there any clarification on the on whether or not, since they're not under the power lines now, I'm just trying to figure out whether we can put large maturing in there?
Well, the code requires small maturing trees. We can't require large maturing trees through this process. I definitely understand what Mary's referring to, because even though they're going to be, potentially 10 feet or more away from those lines, a small maturing tree is eventually probably going to interfere with those lines. A large maturing tree would. So she's kind of got this small area to wedge them in between.
I just wasn't sure whether or not, since we were going to kind of be clear of the power lines, whether that changed anything. But that's good.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, we did recommend on a project I had last month, we did recommend that the applicant switch to large maturing trees, which they happily agreed to do, but it was an entirely different situation, and they didn't have this sort of narrow strip of land in the, which to fit the trees.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from commission members?
Patrick, I have a quick question. Hey, Mary, how are you doing?
Hey, Ed.
What are those small maturing trees that are running adjacent to the detention pond? What species are they?
Red buds are the ones that are the street trees along Biltmore.
Okay.
And then I've got some dogwoods that are next to the parking lot, as well as some larger maturing trees like elms and red maples.
Okay. Are they Coosa dogwoods or are they the native?
They're the native.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, Patrick.
Are there any other questions? Before we entertain a motion, I see that Sharon Summerall has in fact joined us. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. And I'm sorry I missed this presentation. So
That's okay. You're here.
yes, thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion. Yes. Nancy?
We need to open it up.
Oh, public comment.
Jackson, can you see if there's anybody online?
There's currently no one waiting in the queue for public comment at this time.
Then now you can restart, Patrick.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
So I will entertain a motion on this alternative compliance application.
This is Ed. I make a motion that we approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, Karen?
I just want to say that based on the application, I'm pleased to see that the proposed alternative uses the full number of trees and shrubs required in the UDO rather than asking for fewer, and it's just using them in different places.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments on the motion? Hearing none, I will call the question. The motion before us is to approve the alternative compliance, that it meets the criteria that the ordinance sets out for alternative compliance approval. So, Karen?
Aye.
Chardon?
Aye.
Cecil? Cecil, are you there? I can't see his photo, so I'll move on. Ed?
Aye.
Zoe?
Aye.
Sharon?
I abstain.
Okay. And I vote aye. So the alternative compliance request for 7 Granby Street is unanimously approved with 1 abstention. All right. Thank you, everyone. We move on now to 680.
Kim has her hand up real quick.
Who?
Kim has her hand
Patrick,
up.
it's Kim. I just wanted to remind about a point of order that I understand why an abstention vote would be made, but it will count as a yes. So just wanted to let everyone know that we can either do recusals or vote yes or no, but unfortunately abstention is not an option. So just wanted to be clear on that one.
Thank you, Kim.
But she's not allowed to vote because she wasn't present for the entire hearing. So that's why she's
right
recused.
So it'll still go down as a unanimous approval.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, now we'll move on to the alternative compliance application for 680 Haywood Road. Nancy?
Yes. So it's the alternative compliance for 680 Haywood Road. You have seen this case before.
Mm-hmm.
It came in previously. But they've changed it. They've come back because they've run into some site issues with the historic features on the site, and they need to install a wall per the archaeologist who's been contracted. And so that has shifted their entire parking lot. So in shifting the parking lot, they've reduced their VUA from the previous approved plan, which they moved it over 4 feet where they had to put a wall. So that reduced the number of required trees by 1 for their parking lot for those standards. So they've come back to meet all of the parking lot landscaping, and one of the trees was in the parking lot on the approved plan was actually a street tree. And in the reduction of the island sizes, it couldn't fit both trees, so they needed to push it out to the road. And it gets into where it has to be 15 feet apart from the other trees at a minimum. Then it gets into their utility connections, and then also into the site visibility triangle, which I provided that information from our transportation engineer. So they have proposed to move that one street tree, to ask for a waive of that one street tree and move it interior to the site as part of their, into the landscaping of the parking lot. So they're still meeting all of their requirements. They're just not in the right place. If y'all understand that. Do y'all have any questions?
Nancy, is there anyone from the applicant here who wishes to speak?
Yes, Crawford, do you wish to speak? Crawford Murphy was here.
Well, thank you. That's a good explanation. Of course, the big surprise was that we found the grave site there on the property and had to accommodate for it. And we appreciate all the cooperation that the archaeologists in the city have done to accommodate this thing. It was a little bit of a squeeze, but we maintained it. So appreciate all the help we got. And I will be with whatever happens with approval today. I might assume that then we will update the archaeologist as to what the solution was, and would appreciate some contact from the city to back that up. So we're perfectly satisfied with what's come out of it and the work that was done.
Okay, thank you, Crawford. Are there any questions for Nancy or Crawford? Okay. Jackson, do we have anyone in the queue for public comment on this alternative compliance request?
None at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. So seeing that there's no questions or comments for staff or the applicant, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
This is Ed. I motion to approve this request.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Chardon. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, then I will call the question. Cecil? Has Cecil left us?
Sorry, I was muted. Aye.
You vote aye? Okay. Sharon?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Zoe?
Aye.
Chardon?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the alternative compliance request for 680 Haywood Road has been unanimously approved. Thank you, Nancy and Crawford. So
thank you, and I'm going to sign off. Appreciate it, and good to meet all of you.
Thank you, Crawford. Good to meet you as well. So now we come to the public comment section. First of all, Jackson, is there anybody on the queue who wishes to speak?
No one has joined the queue since we've started.
Okay. So I'll refer your attention to two written comments that have come in to the Urban Forestry Commission on public comment. The first one was from Tom Byers, who sent a lengthy comment regarding what he felt was the ponderous process for getting permitting to take down a tree on steep slope, and wanted the Urban Forestry Commission to weigh in on this. I'm not sure, although it does involve trees, I'm not sure that the permitting process is specifically within our purview. However, I will open it up to anyone who would like to comment on that comment from Mr. Byers. Yes, Sharon?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't read that. I've had a hectic schedule. Did he mention why it was ponderous?
I don't have it right in front of me.
I think I can address that, Patrick.
Okay.
It was after getting a permit to remove a tree. It sounded like there were several steps that he had to go through. Getting a certified arborist to certify that the tree needed to be removed. The city ensuring that it was on the arborist letterhead. So there's the permit part, and then the replacement part. He felt like he had adequate number of trees and didn't feel like he needed to replace it. So the request was then to have him present that waiver from planting through alternative compliance, and it was sort of like, I'm one person. This is just one tree. It's just too onerous a request, and when I read it, it seemed like the city was following appropriate process and protocol, and it's difficult to differentiate between one person and one tree versus some issues that we've had with wholesale tree removal along steep slope, and remain consistent with our no net loss policy. That I kind of felt sorry he had to jump through the hoops, but that's the process sometimes, and to treat everybody fairly, you just have to go with the flow instead of fighting it, and you get where you want to be. So I will say that in the note, he did compliment the professionalism of Keith and other people on staff in trying to work with them. So it didn't feel like there's any ill will towards the city. It's more the process that he was disgruntled about. And my sense was, if the city changes anything with the process, it may be some way to simplify simple cases that and still treat everybody equally. But I don't know how you can do that. I would have to put a lot of thought into it. So I consider it a non-issue, really.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, I've had several meetings, like Tom said, or with Mr. Byers. So I think his what he's speaking to as, and I believe he's going to submit an alternative compliance next month for the replanting of the 2 trees that he needs to replant with. But he was more referring to, it sounded like he felt like he had to go down to the permit center every time to get something done down there. So it sounded like he just wasn't technologically savvy enough to kind of do that at home. So but I think he had to make several stops at the permit center, and maybe was or wasn't getting the right information down there. But I think he's going to come back with alternative compliance next month to waive the tree planting.
Thank you, Keith.
Yep.
Anybody else? Nancy, did you have anything to? You're the steep slope expert.
No, I did not have anything
Okay.
to add.
All right. Then thank you, commission members. The second public comment that we got was from Hunter Carson. He is the property owner in Hall Creek, whose property would be most affected by the Hall Creek sidewalk project along New Hall Creek Road. His comment was mainly to add more substance to the information that we got from Devin Clemens from Capital Projects at the last meeting. And he and his comments were saying that I believe he showed a tree survey somewhere along the line during this process, and that he is saying that there's more than 70 trees that are potentially in peril of being removed to make room for this project and for a stormwater retention system and I think retaining wall. So I don't know. We had sufficient discussion on this issue at the last meeting. I don't know that we need to go into further discussion at this meeting. However, if someone feels like this is an issue regarding sidewalk projects and its potential effect on tree removal, that we could assign this to one of the working groups to look into, maybe sit down with Keith and people from Capital Projects and see if we could come up with a better review process on this. Sharon?
Yeah, the letter disturbed me because what he stated about how many trees are coming out, being on his property, the length of the trees, his knowledge of it not being presented, I can see where, our communication, but it did disturb me, and it affected me in our transparency process, because in my stay at UFC, I've had some transparency issues of what's delivered to us, and hear later that there is more complications to it than just what we hear. And it's never good to have X amount of trees coming out and then to hear that a whole lot more coming out than what was presented, and his response to it. And so I deeply felt his pain, having what got me on UFC in the first place was having the same issue with the Greenways project. So I know completely what he's going through on this. And I feel that, as you stated, we need more detailed information, whether we all want to sit down and hear it or not, but we need to see the whole picture, how it's affecting private property, how it's affecting the public property, and we got all the lay of it. But I was distressed to hear and read his letter.
Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else? Jackson?
A caller has jumped on on the public comment line, so I can unmute and.
Okay.
I believe, does that connect them? One second, I'm having some issues. It says they're on mute. Maybe not. it looks like they had some technical issues. I'm seeing it come in through a written comment. They may try calling again in a moment.
Okay. Well, if they do, let me know. You know, we as a commission dealt with the city on the Vermont Avenue sidewalk project and how that impacted trees. Now we have this issue in Hall Creek. So I don't want to get into further discussion on the details about the project. What I would be interested in is any recommendation from the commission on how we handle this generally. Ed?
I was going to make a comment on the letter itself. How we deal with it generally, I don't know. I think as a commission, and to Sharon's point, we should ask for greater transparency. I remember specifically asking last month when we were getting a presentation on the Haw Creek sidewalk, when the comment was made by the Capitol folks that they're going to save, that they want to save as many trees as they can, and they intend to do so. I asked if the trees were surveyed, and they said no. Yet this letter produced a tree survey. You can't save trees without having a survey. And the letter also spoke to the transparency issue, I think, because the gentleman who wrote the letter is an engineer, and he generated a solution for the city that would result in saving some trees, additional trees, and at basically the same cost, according to him. I don't know if that's true or not. And the city rejected that design. So I get the sense that trees are obstacles for the Capitol folks, and the easier they can get them out of the way, the better off they are with their projects and their project funding, probably. I know that's a strong statement, but I think as a commission, we should probably communicate back to the Capitol folks that we're taking trees seriously, that it's one of the easiest local solutions to this existential climate crisis that we're facing. And we should think of them as infrastructure like we do the rest of our utilities, and treat them as such. So
sorry to cut you off, the color has jumped on back again. I must have hit something wrong there. It's working for them now, I'm pretty sure. I give them. Hello. 828-417-70. Are you available?
All my work's in there though.
Well, let's continue. If we can get the caller on the line, we'll stop and hear what he or she has to say. Karen?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to echo agreement with Sharon and Ed's comments, and to just highlight what this person included in their letter, which he said the drawings don't illustrate the temporary construction easement, which is also subject to additional clearing. So by advocating for better transparency and with all aspects of a plan, especially in our case, the ones that affect tree canopy, I think that would just foster more goodwill between the community and the city, and especially, so it might be something that is not, welcome or supported information by everybody, but if there is a reasonable explanation for that, I think it will be better received than having something excluded from a plan.
Thank you, Karen. Who else? Zoe?
My question was actually answered as I look at this tree survey, which includes species and sizes. Which I don't recall us ever actually seeing this sort of thing. But yeah, it is troubling. Thank you.
Chardon?
Yeah, I agree with Ed and Sharon and Karen. And I think as a whole, if the UFC can be brought in sooner in a project, I think that's going to be a lot more effective. You know, we talked to Mr. Clemens and it kind of seemed like he had just been reporting to us to let us know what was going on, and any suggestion was not going to be really considered. So I think at this point, this project, we don't really have anything to offer it, because it seems like it's so far down the road. You know, they've been planning it for so long that that they're going to do it anyway. So I think that if we could be brought in on projects, you know, that they're planning right now, you know, then I think we could actually have some teeth in it. But otherwise, it seems like they're just going to tell us what they're going to do, and they're going to do it.
Now, good points from everyone. Let me ask if, rather than the commission as a whole taking this up over and over again, whether the either the policy working group, or if we want to form another working group to take this up and to discuss more transparency, and as Chardin has suggested, involving the Urban Forestry Commission earlier in the process, and then have that working group report back. They could meet with whomever in the city they feel is necessary, and then report back to the commission. Sharon?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up somewhere else in the agenda, because we've got issues on the Muni with staging of equipment on the critical root zone of trees. And that's a capital project. And we have other capital project issues that we've had before. And so I was thinking, how can we go about and create a capital projects, which I do believe we had a working group say on the enforcement of it, that they would deal with it. I'm off in November and December. So, I mean, I'll do what I can, but I think we need, as we did when we were working on private, changed our tree canopy protection amendment, and we're focused on private. I think we need to take the same rules that we've got going for the private people and apply it to our public and our capital projects, because it's all in the UDO and they all should be having to comply. Just because they're a separate entity and not attached to the city, they're part of the city, they should still have to meet the requirements of the UDO and what we're demanding from the private. And so somehow I think that we could tighten that up more and make people more accountable in that area. But we collectively as a commission are going to have to insist that that be done. And the only way we can do it is like we did when we were tackling 719. So yes, the long way around is we need to either take the working group we have now and expand it, or come up with another one that just wants to do with capital projects or public projects that happen to be capital.
Ed, did you want to say something? No?
No, I'm sorry. I did not.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, for the sake of moving on, let me think about it, and I will contact couple of the chairs of the already existing working groups and see if they're interested in taking this on. If not, I can create a separate working group and ask for volunteers from the commission to be on it to deal with this specific project. So, and just one other point that that sort of complicates the Hall Creek situation is that it's also dealing with NCDOT, because New Hall Creek Road is a state road. So I don't know how much they govern the process over the city. but I will leave that up to the working group if they want to expand this, the jurisdiction beyond the city and to include NCDOT. So thanks everybody for that discussion. Jackson, do we get a chance to get this person on the line?
One sec, I'm jumping around support. No, it seems they have left.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, just wanted to let y'all know that I'm available if any work group needs support formalizing a recommendation or drafting anything. Just let me know.
Thank you, Kim. We'll take you up on that. All right, we'll go to staff reports. City Arborist, Mark.
Hi there. It's been pretty much another normal summer month. Storms, trees fall down across our roads and we clear them for you. Identifying and removing dead trees and structurally defective trees before they fall down on the road for you, and cutting back vegetation along the road edges so that y'all can drive down your lane instead of down the middle. As far as new and different stuff, I met with Ryan Blado from the U.S. Forest Service. He's a plant pathologist, and Matt Deerdoff from the golf course, and climbed a red oak today to collect samples for Ryan to rule out the possibility of oak wilt in red oaks over there at the community golf. So he'll be culturing some of the samples and maybe sending some off to Raleigh. And in the meantime, I've got I'm up to 3 trees over there now that I need to remove. One of them I shared the information with yourself and Shardon by email. And then there are a couple others that are just dead as a hammer. And so it's no great rocket science as far as needing to remove them. Toward the end of this week, tomorrow after